hear me. So I'm reading out a brief from his LinkedIn page. A passionate educator, researcher, and clinician specializing in yoga therapy, naturopathy, acupuncture, nutrition, health, wellness, medical education, stress management. He looks forward greatly to helping people in their journey to health and wellness with the skills acquired during his training as a trained practitioner of naturopathy and yoga therapy. The research in yoga has given him insights about the subtleties of human body and mind. And the same is applied while preparing his students while they take the leap of healing art and science of yoga and naturopathy. He's been in Karnataka for over 16 years now. His proficient languages are English, Hindi, and Marathi. Over to Dr. Apar to take us through this journey on the eve of International Yoga Day.
Thank you, Shri.
Guru, I think Guru could be unmuted.
Dr. Apar, if you can give us another 30 seconds, maybe we will get a few more people.
Sure,
And
why not? No problem.
By that time, I will just pitch in and add to what Shri left out.
Okay.
We are an young organization and we are trying to imbibe the culture of health, fitness, and what more to imbibe more than a yoga and pranayama. And I'm sure with your talk, a lot of people in the organization will get impressed and we can build a healthy Bharat. And this would be one advent step which we are taking towards the best parts of our life, I presume. Thank you very much, and I'll hand over to Dr. Apar. I think another 40 people have to join. They would join as we go through. We will go ahead as we speak.
Okay, so shall I start, Guru? Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me and that generous introduction. Essentially, I was asked to talk about pranayama, which I am very passionate about because my PhD has been on the effects of pranayama itself. As we are all in process of celebrating the International Day of Yoga, the 6th edition of it, yoga has been our heritage, and we have been involved with the practice of yoga for ages now. But then there are still a lot of issues because we are now trying to look back to yoga from a Western perspective rather than practicing that as our tradition. Am I audible? Yeah. Okay. So this time, because of the pandemic, we are not able to celebrate it in the manner that we were doing it till last year. And therefore, the theme chosen by the government this time is yoga at home and with your family, which is a very apt theme because all of us are kind of scared, worried about, anxious about going out. We don't know where we will be able, we will be catching the infection or anything. But imbibing yoga in our lifestyle is going to help us build our immunity in such a way that even if we are facing a viral infection, we should be able to take care of that. And not just that, lead a healthy lifestyle. So moving on, I think I'll focus more on what I'm supposed to talk on pranayama, which has been an integral part of yogic tradition. You must have heard about the Ashtanga Yoga, which is the 8 limbs given by Maharshi Patanjali. And pranayama sits right there. Essentially, it means it is made of 2 Sanskrit words, prana and ayama. And since all of us are Indians, we know prana is life. Basically, it is the life force or vital force that maintains life. And the Sanskrit word ayama means to regulate. And therefore, pranayama is essentially regulating the vital force or the life force that all of us live with. In yoga, what we believe is that we are not just limited to this physical body, which is this particular concept of Panchakosha comes from one of the Upanishads called as Taittiriya Upanishad, where we understand that we are not just this physical body, but there is more to us. Essentially, a dead body also has a body but does not have life. And therefore, if you want to be living, you need to have life, that is prana. But somebody who is in coma also has a body, also has life, but does not have mind, the manas part of it. They cannot feel anything, they don't have any emotions, and therefore there is something else further. uh, Going further, there is, all of us are intelligent animals. Human being is considered as the most intelligent animal, and there is always the thinking part of us, which is different than the feeling part of us. Just to give you a quick example, probably, all smokers know that smoking is bad. The knowledge part is different, but they are having the urge of smoking. So the thinking and the rational part of it and the irrational part of mind is always there. And why do we do everything that we do? The cause of our existence to reach the state of happiness, to reach the state of ananda. And therefore we engage ourselves in activities such as that will give us wealth, so that we can live our life comfortably, or we do social activities so that we can be satisfied. It can be anything, but ultimately whatever we do it for the sake of being happy. And that is why in yoga we say everything, the cause of our existence itself is to be happy, and therefore the goal is to reach there. Now, when I'm going to talk of pranayama, I'm going to limit myself to the second layer of our existence, that is the pranamaya kosha, and not deal too much into the other parts of it. Rather, talk about how breathing and our physical body is connected. Also talk a little bit on how it can impact our mind. So what is prana? Essentially, we understand that it is the vital force. There are so many synonyms to it. In naturopathy, we call it vitality. In Chinese medicine or acupuncture, we call it chi. In Ayurveda, we call it ojas. There are several names to it. In yoga, we call it prana. But what we understand is, with the evolution of science, we are able to clone, we are able to create new species and all of that. But we are unable to create a living being without a source of life. And therefore, what we need to understand is that life comes from life. Okay. And that living entity is what is the prana part of us. Okay. Many of you might be having pet animals at your home, right? What is the average age of a dog? Probably about 15-20 years, right? And I'm sure you must have seen sea turtles, which probably are the longest living animals on earth, and they live about 200 to 300 years. That is the average lifespan that they have. And one of the major differences in their biology is that the rate of breathing at which they uh, do their respiration. A dog typically breathes very, very fast. On the other side, the turtles are known to breathe extremely slow. They breathe as slow as about one breath per minute or something like that. So what we also have to understand is a human being breathes at an average of about 15-20 breaths per minute and lives a life which is in between these two kind of animals. And therefore, one of the key elements that we need to understand while we are practicing pranayama is that we need to slow down our breath as much as we can if we want to live long, if we want to live healthy. So that is one of the most important concepts that I want you to take home from today's session. We need to breathe slowly, as slow as possible. Now, talking a little more on the philosophy part of pranayama, what we understand is this subtle body that all of us have has several channels, and I'm sure all of us have heard about the nadis through which the prana would flow. There are several chakras in each one of us, and they are represented in the picture there. Now, uh, there are three most important nadis that are considered when it comes to the spiritual concepts. They are called as Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. Now these Ida and Pingala are supposed to be the nadis that carry out opposing forces. Now all of us have, there is a bit of positivity, there is a bit of negativity in each one of us. There is always a light and dark in each one of us. There is always goodness and badness in each one of us, but there has to be a balance. Okay, and Ida and Pingala essentially represent those opposing forces. And what is said in the spiritual context is, when there is a balance between this positive and negative energy, when there is a balance between goodness and badness, then the spirituality will arise. And the third channel or the nadi that we talk about is the Sushumna nadi, which flows in the center. Okay, and the path is right from the bottom to the spiritual centers at the top. So the goal, the spiritual goal of pranayama is essentially to balance the flow of energy in us and arise the kundalini. But then many of us don't really do it for the spiritual awakening. We do it for some physical benefits or psychological benefits. So I'll come to that very quickly. Why should we do pranayama? Now, we have been breathing from birth to death. And in human body, there are two kinds of physiological systems. One which is under our control. Say I'm walking or I'm talking, all that I can control myself, and they are called as the voluntary nervous system. And there is another part of my body which is not under my control. My heart is beating when I'm talking to you. There is digestion happening in my body, which is not under my control. Even if I like, I cannot reduce the beatings of my heart. But breathing or respiration is the only system in our body which is under both autonomic and voluntary control. Unless you take charge of your breathing, it happens on its own. But if you want, you can always take charge of your breathing and start breathing the way you want it. Okay, and therefore what we use pranayama or breathing exercises in yoga, it is used as a window to things that you cannot control. Now whenever you are anxious, when you are tensed, your heart starts beating faster, and there is no way that you can control the heartbeats. But what you can simply do is slow down your breathing, and automatically your heartbeats will come down. So we use this media, breathing as a media, to control the autonomic activities in the body. Just to give you a very quick example again, what happens when we are stressed and when we do controlled breathing. Whenever we are stressed, our breaths become shallow, short, we start holding the breath. We are not conscious about it. Sometimes it is also associated with prolonging and amplifying the stress reaction. Okay. But on the other side, when you start controlling your breath, start doing deep, long breaths with awareness and attention, what would happen is it will calm you down, it will soothe you, and therefore it would activate the relaxation part. Now, what I did not talk in my earlier slide is the autonomic nervous system. The nervous system that controls the involuntary activities in the body has two parts. There is a part which is called as the sympathetic part, which is responsible for arousal. And there is parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for relaxation. So the moment you start doing calm, deep, relaxed breaths, it will activate what is called as a relaxation response and help us to attain a calm state of body and mind. And therefore, we utilize breathing as a media to control the mind as well as the body. Now, again, answering the question from a philosophical perspective, there is a lot that has been spoken about pranayama, be it Bhagavad Gita, be it Patanjali Yoga Sutras or Hatha Yoga texts. But one particular shloka that stands out is a shloka from Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which says, chale vate chalam chittam nischale nischalam bhavet, which means when my breath flows, my mind also flows. And therefore, it is establishing a connection between the mind and breath. And now, if I want to control my mind, which is generally not under my control, it is very simple. I start controlling the breath. Okay. And this is what is utilized by the yogis to attain higher states of consciousness. And therefore, why should we do pranayama? To start controlling the things that are beyond our control, whether it is the mind or the involuntary activities in the body. Of course, it will prolong your lifespan, but not just prolong it. It will lead to a healthy life. Okay. And it will also help us to manage the stress. A lot of times we have this issue that, in the office, we are subjected to a lot of stress. Whenever you feel stressed out, you can just sit back, close your eyes and focus your attention on your breathing. It is as simple as that. Okay, start doing deep abdominal breathing. Or I was told by Mr. Guru yesterday that there is already somebody taking pranayama sessions for all of you. So just remember that and start doing it. It will help you to calm down your mind very, very quickly. Okay, this has been something that is observed across the world by close to 2000 plus research publications on pranayama. So how do we do it? Basically, there are three phases of breathing: inhalation, exhalation, and holding of breath. When you're beginning to do pranayama, we don't advise you to do holding of breath. Okay, that is for an advanced yogic practitioner, but it is rather you choose the inhalation and exhalation. What is said is you should have short inhalations and prolonged exhalation. Okay. Now, why is that? Again, our body is very sensitive to toxic materials, and exhalation, we breathe out carbon dioxide. It is known that even if you don't get oxygen, it is okay. But to your brain, a trigger for respiration is the carbon dioxide levels in your body. And therefore, longer the exhalation, more toxins come out of your body and you start relaxing. So one of the things that you must do while doing pranayama is slow, deep breathing, number one. The exhalation, breathing out, should be longer than breathing in. Those are two important tips that I want to give you whenever you are doing practice of pranayama. I think there is a question asked. Somebody has raised a hand. Do you have a question, Akash?
He will not be able to ask the question, sir. His mic is not working, so we
Okay,
can.
you could possibly
continue.
ask it in the chat.
Right.
We will take it up. No problem. So now, it is said that when you are preparing for the practice of pranayama, especially advanced pranayama practice like holding of breath, etc., you need to purify the body by doing what is called as kriyas. There are several cleansing procedures that are explained in the yoga texts. There is something called as neti, there is kapalabhati, there is also dhauti kriya, but your body must be pure when you're doing pranayama, and there has to be stability of the body attained through asana. Now, why is that important? Because pranayama increases the energy levels in the body. Okay. And if our body is unable to handle that energy, we will have fuse. Okay. The fuse will go off, and therefore it is very, very important that the body is very, very pure and stable before you go for the practice of advanced pranayama. But the basic set of pranayama that all of you are possibly doing without breath holding do not really require that kind of preparation. You can do it at any point, no problem. But one of the things that I would again suggest you is that you will have to keep a gap from any meals uh, and the practice of pranayama. You should not be having a tea or coffee and start doing pranayama, because the impact of what you're doing will be lost. Okay, and therefore very simple practices can be definitely done, but if you want to really learn the nitty-gritties of pranayama, then you will have to start also doing it in association with asana and kriya. Your breathing have to become slow, smooth, steady, and uniform. So that is how you need to proceed with the practice of pranayama. So what are the techniques of pranayama? There are several techniques described, and also there are derived techniques. So there are about 9 or 10 specific yoga breathing practices that are described in the traditional yogic tradition. But what has happened is people have taken those practices and evolved their own ways of doing it. One example probably I would take is Sudarshana Kriya Yoga, which is a derived technique from a traditional practice called as Bhastrika. Okay, so there are several techniques that are out there, and you can choose what suits you the most. The beauty of the yoga practices is that there is so much of variety given to you, and the reason why that variety is there is because, again, each one of us is a different individual with different set of body and mind, and therefore what suits me the most should be the practice that I do. How do I choose which is right for me? Probably you will have to do some permutations and combinations and do it under the guidance of someone, which will help you to choose the right kind of practices for you. So essentially, the different kinds of pranayama techniques would include manipulation of the pace of breathing, the speed of breathing, in which you have fast breathing practices like Kapalabhati or Bhastrika. On the other side, there are pranayamas like Sukha Pranayama, where you simply sit and slow down your breath. So both ways you can manipulate your breathing to control the different outcomes. Then there is a set of nostril manipulations. There is, you take breathe from right nostril, exhale through left, or opposite, or do alternate nostril breathing. What is also known, I have shown you the picture of Ida Pingala and Sushumna Nadis. And what is known is that the nadis essentially open up in our nostrils. And therefore, if you want to manipulate the flow of the energy, you will start manipulating the nostrils. That is the way we do the Anuloma Viloma or Nadi Shuddha Shodhana or Surya Vedana or Chandra Vedana Pranayama. There are also practices where there is chanting involved or humming sound involved, practice something called as Brahmari. And then there is alteration of breathing. You breathe in through mouth, breathe out through nose. There are practices like Sadanta, Shitali, Shitkari, etc. So there are several of these practices which are there. Yeah, there are several questions, I think. I will take those questions once we are done with the presentation, Guru, if that is fine. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So why should I do pranayama? What is the reasons, and what will I get if I start doing the practices that are out there? I'm just giving you a gist of about 2000 plus research publications which are out there, uh, which are contributed from across the world. And what we know for sure is if I do pranayama, these things happen to me. Okay, these are different sets of pranayama. People have done it in different permutations and combinations. But what we know in general is if I manipulate my breathing, if I slow it down, if I calm down my breath, I will have enhanced cognitive abilities. Now, probably that's a technical term used by people who are in medicine, but essentially cognition is an aspect of an individual where we are able to receive impulses from the outside world and process them in our brain and react to them. Okay, so essentially, how quickly am I able to respond to a situation, or how good is my memory, or how good is my concentration or attention? All of that can be enhanced by doing pranayama. Now imagine a lot of us, all of you have gone through the exams of CA, and it is a tough thing, right? You study for a long period of time, but at the end of it, the output is very low, right? But imagine you are able to study half the time, but your output is doubled. And everybody would like doing that, and that can easily be done by practicing pranayama before you start doing, your studies or something like that. The second thing that we talk about is better metabolism. Again, metabolism is basically the chemical processes that regulate our body. There are a lot of chemical processes that happen in our body. Okay, and what is known is if I do pranayama, I go to a state of better metabolism. I think I when I was quickly going through the chat, I read somebody asking me what pranayama is good for reducing tummy, right? Now, again, whether you increase weight or reduce weight is based on the amount of metabolic activity that happens in our body, and that can be manipulated well by different kinds of pranayama. Definitely that can be done. The other thing that we already know is pranayama would have a very good impact on normalizing the hormones. Especially we're talking of two or three major uh, hormonal imbalances that are very common today. Thyroid issues are very, very common. A lot of people suffer from them. In women, we are talking of what is called as polycystic ovarian syndrome. And like what I was introduced, it's a young team, and PCOD and hypothyroidism are very, very common health problems in young adults now. Okay, so that can also be done. Now, what we understand is hormones are under control of our brain, and brain is under control of the stress, how we handle stress. So if we are subjected to a lot of stress, there will be a hormonal imbalance that will be effect of it. And therefore, if you want to normalize your hormones, you can go ahead and do pranayama practices. Another major thing that happens, and there is again a lot of research that has happened with this particular aspect of pranayama, it enhances the cardiorespiratory health. What I mean by that is the heart and the lungs work more efficiently, and you can prevent a lot of complications like high blood pressure or heart diseases in future if you have been practicing pranayama. There is a state of autonomic balance. I just was mentioning that there are two parts of our autonomic nervous system, one which is responsible for arousal, one which is responsible for relaxation. And there has to be a balance between two. I cannot be going to office in a state of relaxation, because then I will not be able to work if I'm drowsy and sleepy and tired at office. But when I'm going to bed in the night, I need to be relaxed. I cannot be aroused at that point because I will not be able to sleep. And what pranayama would do is help you to get the balance, perfect balance of the autonomic nervous system activity, and help you to do whatever activity you are doing in the best possible manner. Of course, nobody wants to age, and all of us want to be young, both at the heart as well as at the body. And what we understand is if we have better metabolism, we can prevent aging. And therefore, what is seen is people who practice pranayama for a long period of time, they can actually reverse the aging process. Okay, just to very quickly tell you this particular phenomenon, there is something called as a chronological age, which is your birthday to today. Okay, and there is something called as the biological age, which means what my body the state of my body, what age do my body's age is right now. That is what is biological age. Typically, the chronological age should be equal to biological age, but that doesn't happen because of our wrong lifestyle. We eat wrong things. We do a lot of activities, a lot of stress, no physical exercise, and therefore what has happened is the biological age is usually faster than the chronological age. And we keep talking about what is called as early aging. A lot of us have probably seen the advertisement of Chamanprash, which claims to prevent early aging. Okay, so pranayama also would help you to prevent early aging, but not in isolation. It has to be backed up with lifestyle modifications. It is not enough to just do pranayama and continue to smoke or drink or indulge in any kind of food habits or not do physical exercise. Then these effects are not going to be there, but rather it has to be a part of a healthy lifestyle. And that is why I really liked what Guru said in the introductory remarks. If you want healthy India, the lifestyle has to be modified and not just include this as a standalone package somewhere. Okay. Again, it is a very, very important part of stress management techniques that we're talking today. What has happened is the Indian heritage has been taken by the Westerners and they bring it back to us as a package now. Okay, we have something called as mindfulness based stress reduction technique, which is extremely popular. And essentially what they do is pranayama, but in a very different way. I'm not sure if you have seen something that came up, I think last year in a magazine called as Scientific American, which is a very popular scientific magazine. And they again spoke of what is called as cardiac coherence breathing, which was nothing but Nadi Shuddhi Pranayama, but it was labeled in a different way. Okay. And therefore, we should not be, falling for these kind of advertisements which are coming from the West. Rather, start practicing what has been our heritage to remain healthy. There are many, many more benefits to doing pranayama than what are listed here. This is just a gist of it. Okay. And therefore, we have all the more reasons to start practicing pranayama for our healthy lifestyle. We have just started a small initiative, myself and a couple of our friends. We do have online consultations. This was essentially a thing that we started during the lockdown because people were having a lot of stress related problems, and we do online consultations now, help people to take care of their health issues with non-drug therapies, essentially dietary consultation, counseling, yoga therapy or naturopathy, etc. So if you have any specific health problems, we can definitely interact on those specifics sometime later. But I think I have put forward some key concepts of pranayama. And now I think we will take up some questions before we can take some practices. So I'm just going to read through some of these questions. Yeah, the first question, a very obvious question, is what is the gap between eating and pranayama? Ideally, it should be about 2 hours.
Sorry,
Yes.
doctor.
Yeah.
If you can get the screen sharing off, we can see you answering the questions.
Oh, sure,
that way
sure,
better.
sure, sure. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So I will go to chat. Yeah. So what is the time gap between eating and pranayama? Ideal time gap is going to be at least 1.5 hours. that is the time required for beginning of digestion. At least your food is not remaining in the stomach. It is passed on to intestines, and therefore that is the most ideal time. So yeah, I think I've answered question by Ganesh and Shilpa. Best time of the day to do pranayama. Early mornings are most ideal ones, definitely, for multiple reasons. One, your body and mind are calm at that point. Of course, the environment is very congenial. You have fresh oxygen, and therefore, ideal time is definitely early morning. But uh, that should not become a reason not to do pranayama. A lot of times people would say, I need to get ready to go to office and I cannot do it in the morning. It is fine. You can do it at any given point of time, whichever is convenient to you. Okay. So ideal time, early morning, but it can be done any time of the day. So I think I have answered what Shilpa and Ishwar has asked me. When pranayama should be done, whether after or before asana, ideally after asana, because pranayama would help you to calm down. And essentially, what is said is when you're doing asana, your body gets in a state of arousal, and therefore pranayama would help you to cool down. So it will be a very nice practice for cooling down. What is the ideal time to do pranayama? I have answered that question. For how many minutes? It should be a package in which you do it. So what we advise is about 40 minutes of asana, at least 10 minutes of pranayama, and 10 minutes of meditation or relaxation. That is the kind of practice that every day one should do. But it would also depend on any health problems you have, any specific health issues that you have, then the permutations and combinations might be different. Like we advise sometimes that you should be doing pranayama 4 times a day for 15 minutes. Okay, so it would depend on your health problems. But if you do not have any health problems and you are essentially doing pranayama to have a better state of body and mind, then about 10 to 15 minutes a day should be enough. I think Guru himself has asked this question, which I had very quickly glanced through. Whether pranayama will help in reducing tummy and weight? The answer is yes and no. Unless it is part of the comprehensive lifestyle, it may not be helping too much. But there are specific pranayama techniques which will help you to enhance metabolic activities in the body. Be it Kapalabhati, Bhastrika, there is something called as Surya Anuloma Viloma, which is you close the left nostril and breathe only through right. These are practices which are known to increase the metabolic activity in the body. But again, it needs to be backed up with proper diet, because you cannot just go on eating junk and expect pranayama to take care of the effect of it. And therefore it has to be part of comprehensive lifestyle rather than just looking at as a standalone practice. Also, there are certain risks when it comes to therapy. Like I said, right nostril breathing can increase your metabolism. And this was one study which was done in our own university here. And we do have people coming in for 1 month, and some researcher, just like the talk that I gave now, spoke to this group of YIC people. And then one of the girls, she heard that right nostril breathing would help her to reduce tummy. She just made a cotton plug, plugged her left nostril, and went on doing right nostril breathing. Her BP shot up and started having nose bleeding. So we need to understand that you will have to have specific advice of a doctor rather than just doing it on your own, looking at some videos or something like that. What we spoke in general was the general perspectives of pranayama and the general health benefits. But when it is coming to a specific medical condition, I think it is always better to consult and then start doing those practices. Prachi has asked, does posture make a difference to pranayama? Yes, definitely. Yes. Ideally, you should have your back and neck erect, because again, what we say is the flow of energy has to go via the spine. So if your back and neck is not erect, then possibly there could be blockages in the way energy would flow. How does lying down or sitting straight make a difference? If you cannot sit down, say you have a health condition because of which you are bedridden, I am not forbidding you from doing pranayama, okay? But the most ideal position is rather sitting upright, okay? But no problem if you are not able to do that way as well. Is there specific pranayama for improvement of concentration? Yes. If anything for migraine and sinus specific, I think individually we will have to consult, because we will have to look at what are the different factors which are associated, whether it is allergic, whether it is some triggering factors, whether it is the lifestyle factors, and therefore we will have to look at those nitty-gritties of the issues. Best breathing exercise to start with when you suffer from bronchial allergy? Again, the answer probably for most of these conditions, the answer is going to be a simple one. If there is a health problem, then we will have to look at those health problems, talk about them before we prescribe something. Okay, there is something when we are talking of healthy nutrition and when we are talking of dietary prescription. Okay, what we spoke was a healthy nutrition. Pranayama is beneficial in general to everybody, but when it has to be prescribed to an individual, it has to be individual specific and the problem specific, and therefore it would be very difficult for me to confine it in the given constraints of time. In our religion, there is a ritual called Sandhya Vandana where pranayama is part of the same. Yes. You said asana and kriya should be done before pranayama. Can you explain, please? Yes. Again, I'm saying the same thing, that pranayama is not a standalone practice. It is a part of overall lifestyle. And again, Sandhya Vandana is a part of that lifestyle itself. And unless your asanas, I mean, your body is prepared to handle the increased amount of energy. Imagine if your home, which is supposed to handle certain fluctuations of the electricity, but sudden surge of electricity, the fuse goes off. Okay, so if you're doing advanced pranayamas where there can be a sudden increase in energy, then there will be a problem. I believe that is the kind of answer that I can give. But the practices that you people are doing are, I believe, very, very simple pranayama techniques, and there is no harm in doing them. Okay, so you really need not worry about too much of preparation for it. Rather than just start doing it, there is no problem. Can yoga be done in the morning? Yes. Evening? Yes. It can be any time. Just keep a gap from your meal. It should be fine. Okay. Ideal time, of course, is early morning. Shiv Kumar is asking, should we do pranayama in open space? Ideally, yes. If not, any place is fine. Okay. Again, the ideal situations are there, but a lot of times if you are in Delhi, I would not recommend you to go to open space and do pranayama. Now in lockdown, it's fine, but not during the routine time. Okay. So, and the same applies to even Bangalore. There is no difference. We are also a very polluted place. Okay. And therefore, these rules and regulations are more of a general guideline, but rather you can devise your own modalities and ways of doing it. Okay, they should not become the reason. Because I am not able to go to open space, I won't do pranayama should not be the reason. Because I am unable to do it in the morning, should not become the reason for not doing pranayama. So these are very important things that I want you to remember. Right nostril means which angle? Very simple. You can just close your left nostril and do right nostril breathing, Prasanna. I did not get your question. From the person who is doing right nostril or from the person who is instructing right nostril? Okay. For everybody, right nostril is the right nostril. So even when I'm instructing, I will be instructing right nostril. You will have to do it on your right nostril. Sai Sandesh just wanted to know whether there is a substitute to aerial yoga in pranayama. What do you mean by aerial yoga? I am not very sure, Sai. If you can just give me a follow-up text, I will probably able to write to you. Sadhana is asking, does pranayama help in reducing migraine? Yes, definitely it does, but not as a standalone practice. Again, it has to be as a comprehensive lifestyle. Prachi is, and as we understand, pranayama is most effective when we take short inhalation and long exhalation. How does Kapalabhati and Bhastrika help in achieving the benefits of pranayama? Okay. Kapalabhati and Bhastrika are practices of hyperventilation. You breathe in fast, breathe in and out very fast in both the practices. But at the end of these two practices, what happens is your breathing slows down. Okay. Now, if you have practiced Kapalabhati, I want you to not remember the during the practice of Kapalabhati, but rather post the practice of Kapalabhati, soon after it. What happens in terms of what happens to the body is that you breathe out a lot of carbon dioxide. Okay. And as I mentioned it during the presentation, carbon dioxide is the trigger for your brain to force breathing. So since there is no trigger to the brain, your breathing actually stops for a while. Okay. And then when you restart breathing, it is rather very, very slow. Okay. And therefore, Kapalabhati is not a pranayama, number one. It is a kriya, it's a cleansing procedure. And it is used as a preparatory practice for pranayama. Okay. It is not really a pranayama. Bhastrika also helps you to achieve similar benefit. There is a slight difference between those two practices, and I'll not go in details for now, because if we start yoga and discontinue after 3 months, is it will affect our body and health? It's not like gymming where you start gym and stop, then you gain weight. Pranayama and yoga practices are rather more beneficial in terms of the sustenance of the effect. That is what is known. But again, if you are persisting with the practice, the effects are going to be much, much better than doing it in bits and pieces. Is there any minimal age to start pranayama among kids? No. The reason why I'm talking that is very simple. We start breathing right after taking birth. The first cry of a baby is breathing, and essentially what we are doing in pranayama is doing the right breath. So it doesn't have any problem. Asanas rather have a much more restricted thing, where we suggest asanas to be done after the age of 8, because the bones will start fusing only after that age. Okay. Pranayama, if the child is able to understand, it can be done at any given age, no problem. Before or after meditation, Anant? Ideally before meditation, because pranayama can lead you to meditation. It calms your mind down and it pushes you to meditation, and therefore the sequence should be asana, pranayama and meditation. But again, you can choose what is good for you, because there are several breath-based meditation techniques itself. So you could choose that as well. Is it necessary to do asanas? Not really. For simple pranayama, For advanced practitioners, yes, it is necessary. Do we need to pranayama after Surya Namaskara? Yes, Anand. Ideally, if you do it, what will happen is it will calm you down, and the effect of Surya Namaskara, the arousal that you have got, will subside, and you will have a rather state of balance. But if you are unable to do it whenever you can. Pranayama is better once in a day or twice in a day. All more the better. If you can do it twice, definitely go for it. But at least once you should do it. Yeah, again, I think Hina has asked me the similar question. How does it help in sinus? I will choose to answer that probably at an individual level. Can daytime sleepiness be reduced by pranayama? Yes, but daytime sleepiness could be an indication of what is called as sleep apnea. We will have to look at that. Again, it's a specific health problem, and therefore let us not get in details of that. The answer in general for every specific health problem raised is whether pranayama will help. Yes. What pranayama will help, we will have to talk and decide. Very generally, I would answer that. Yeah. Shirshasana, somebody has asked a question. What would be ideal duration for performing it? What time to perform for maximum benefits? Early morning. The longest known Shirshasana, one of our students in our university has done it for 1.5 hours. But he is an advanced yoga practitioner who has been doing it for a really long period of time. Okay. He has actually put it for Guinness World Record as well. Okay. But then you could start doing whatever you feel comfortable with. Okay. Start with minimal duration. As your body eases into the practice, you can increase the duration. I have also heard it helps better hair growth. Yes. Again, as a part of a lifestyle. If you're too stressed and you're doing Shirshasana, it may not be helpful. If your diet is not proper, you are not having enough proteins in your food, and that is the cause for your hair loss, it may not be very helpful. So it has to be a mix of a lot of things. How much time we should do yoga, asana and pranayama? I think I have answered that question already. Sridhar. Neeraj, there are certain things which run in our mind constantly. In that case, practicing pranayama won't be effective as our mind is not stable. If you start practicing pranayama, your mind will start becoming stable. Okay, and it is definitely not something easy. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna also asked the same question. He says, Chanchalam hi manak trishna pramathe balavadridam. So it's not problem of you and me, it is a universal problem that the mind is unstable. And the reason, the method of conquering it is what is called as abhyasa and vairagya. You need to persistently practice it for a long period of time. Okay, and that would help. Are there any live sessions on daily basis to follow and do pranayama? Yes, a lot of schools of yoga are doing that. And I was told by Guru that even in your office, you have somebody coming and teaching pranayama. Can we do pranayama and yogasana at the same time? Yes. Is the combination of weight training workout and pranayama effective for the body? Yes, pranayama would help to reduce the stress that weight training would do to your body. There are also studies on athletes doing pranayama and how they are benefited by practicing it. Does pranayama help improve eyesight? Yes. But again, a lot of you are now confined to looking at screens. So blinking eyes in between, stopping the work, you know, again, I'm saying, repeating the same thing. It is not just going to be pranayama alone, but rather a lot of other practices which are beneficial has to be added together. Pranayama for backache and headache, yes, it will be useful. What type of mistakes people do during pranayama? A lot of times, unless it is done under proper guidance, people may start doing mistakes. One common mistake that I see people doing is during Nadi Shuddhi Pranayama, which is alternate nostril breathing. People don't really realize what they are doing, and there can be a change of the practice itself, and therefore a guided session is always better when you start. Once you start, then it can be done, no problem. How is meditation and pranayama different? Meditation is a lot to do with the mind. Pranayama is a lot to do with breath. There is always a combination that you're going to work with. You can start with breathing. There are breath-based meditations, like I said. Vipassana is one breath-based meditation. There is mindfulness-based breath-based meditation. So breathing can be utilized as both pranayama and meditation combination. No problem with that. And in fact, even in the spiritual texts, it is said that if you are doing pranayama, it leads you to meditation. What type of pranayama will help gastric problem? Live sessions. How does long kriya helps pranayama? Long kriya, I'm not sure, Mohan. I did not understand the question. Yeah, Sai has asked aerial yoga, tying a cloth on top. Okay. There are several variations in the way yoga is practiced today. I am not very sure how aerial yoga is done, and therefore I would rather not comment on it. But a simple way of doing asanas and pranayamas is good enough. You need not go for a fancy one. But a lot of times our young minds want fancy things so that we can keep ourselves engaged. So it is up to you what suits you the best. No problem. Do I have to maintain uniformity of timing and duration? No. You can start doing whenever it is possible. Uniformity, if it is there, it is always best. But if it is not there, that should not become the reason to stop the practice. Pranayama helps for thyroid. Yes, Lavanya, I have already mentioned that during the presentation as well. How fast we start seeing the results in terms of the peace of mind and concentration. For some people, it could be then and there. For some people, it could take some time. It would again depend on my preset of mind. Okay, it would depend on how my thought process is all about. And therefore, for some people, it may take time. For some people, one session of breathing is good enough. Okay, and therefore, the answer is again a very general one. Prithvi has asked, okay, you have motivated us to take up pranayama as a daily routine. Thank you. Will pranayama have direct effect on mental health? Yes. It can be done for past ill memories. Yes, it can be done. How much time should you practice Kapalabhati? Ideally 2 to 5 minutes. 1 to 5 minutes rather, not more than 5 minutes. Kapalabhati is not advised beyond 5 minutes unless it is medically required that way. Okay. When I do fasting for more than 8 hours, I seem to have more concentration, low breathing. It is true. Yes, Chinmay, Upvas has been a practice for spiritual growth. And now we are gaining it popularity for its health benefits, but definitely your observations are true. Yes. Will pranayama make me fit both mentally and physically fit? Yes, Vishwas. Yeah, I think a lot of questions, and yeah, I think we can summarize today's talk. And in general, I will have these few suggestions as a take-home message for all of you. Number one, start doing practices in whatever way you can. Do not wait for the ideal situation to start it, like open space or closed environment or empty stomach or early morning or late evening. Start doing it. Number two, slow breathing, conscious breathing whenever it is possible. Okay. Initially, it is difficult. You drift away, but once it becomes a practice, a lot of times I do this practice even when I'm walking. I do count how many steps do I inhale, how many steps do I exhale. Okay. So I'm doing pranayama even when I'm walking. So you can have your own innovative methods of doing these practices. You can always put your questions together and send it to me over email. If you want to reach out to me, we would be able to help you even that way. I also welcome you to come to our center. We are in Jigni in Bangalore. It's a beautiful place. All of you can actually come down sometime once this lockdown thing is done, and then we can organize some practical sessions also for you. Yeah, over to Guru. I think I'm done with what I wanted.
Thank you very much, Dr. Apar. Raja, can you please, Janki, you'll have to unmute Raja, please.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Apar. It has been a wonderful session. In fact, even your style of speaking, taking the entire session, taking all the questions, seems to be very balanced. Looks like pranayama is already put to use. Such a balanced tone, irrespective of whatever question it was. Some of them were repeated questions, so there was no irritation anywhere. So there was a balance could be seen there. So thank you so much for a wonderful session. It's been such a unique feeling for all of us to have a doctor who can give us, because I think that today's generation, we all want to know first why. Once we know why only, then we're okay to do it. So even for a ritual at home, first we will ask, why should we do? Only we are happy about knowing the why, then we don't mind doing it. So thank you for giving us that. So although pranayama gives us the cognitive abilities, I think with your session, we have got more cognitive ability developed. Thank you so much for that. And from the last 5 years, it's been so beautiful for all of us to feel the pride that we celebrate what is called as the International Yoga Day on 21st of June 2015. It started, and it's now going to be 5 years. When first in 2014, when Narendra Modi ji proposed it to the United Nations General Assembly, and then it was taken over. Something which India has been proudly known to be following from the Vedas and the Upanishad times itself, wherein there's a comment on yoga and meditation right from those days. And it's so beautiful that you spoke about it. And to my dear friends, cognitive ability means our tale, our brains. So therefore, he was all talking about how well we can improve our brains because of that. Thank you so much for this amazing session from you. I think it would be great that if we can get to meet you again and have those sessions. And in our tradition, again, going by the Vedas and Upanishads, they also talk about something called as Guru Dakshina, right? If a Guru has taught us something, I think we have to give a Dakshina to our Guru. So currently we can give you our virtual hugs. Thank you for that. But then later on, we would love to send our beautiful publication that is called as The God in the Boardroom. We'll send a publication called God in the Boardroom to you, a honorarium, a plant talking about life itself. And thank you for all that. And I loved the last, one of those last statements you talked about, saying that even Arjuna asked questions to Krishna. So to all my friends who have watched this, after pranayama, ultimately, if you see, after Arjuna understood everything, he ultimately fought the battle and he won. So we should not do pranayama and then sleep off. So we should ensure that this will improve our efficiency and contribute to the nation. Thank you so much, Dr. Apar. It has been wonderful to know you. Thank you so much for this fabulous session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And I would like to thank Guru Jana and the entire team for having me. If you have any personal issues or something like that, you can probably share, sir. My details are with you and you can share it with the team. I would be more than happy to help them in their health.
Thank you so much.